Hey, what is up guys? BuzzRatchet here for yet another video, and I'm going to be talking about the time I almost broke my nose. Do remember to leave a like as well as subscribe if you are new to the channel. So it all started in second grade, or no, first grade. It was first grade. And we played tag on our playset all the time, and it was literally the best thing ever if you're in first grade. So when we were playing tag, I decided to be up on the top part of the playset, and that's where the tagger was coming up, and I realized that. And so like there was like that bar that you like slide down or whatever, and so I quickly jumped onto it and slid down, but there was like this other kid that jumped off the playset and he collided into my face, and like we both fell to the ground, and the kid just kind of looked at me like I was mental or something, like get out of my way. And I thought like, yeesh. Well, like I asked him, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, and he just kind of looked at me like I was just crazy, and I was like, what the heck is he looking at? So I was really freaked out at that point because the kid was just looking at me and he wasn't talking or anything. Like he didn't tell me, oh, like you got a messed up nose or whatever. And I like kind of freaked out, and so I turned around and there was this like little girl that was in my class. I was like, hey, am I all right? And she just kind of looked at me and shook her head like in the oddest way. She just looked terrified. I was like, oh no, something happened. And I just heard a teacher just yell at me like, hey, come over here or whatever. And I just turned around, I saw her just rushing over to me, and just me being the little first grader I was, I just burst into tears. I just started bawling all over the place, and the teachers ran over and just grabbed me or whatever, and like just kind of walked me over towards the nurse's office. And like at that point, I knew my nose was bleeding because the blood was draining into my mouth, and it was really disgusting. And my friend, I'm just gonna call him Ethan. And my friend Ethan, he just ran over to me and he was like, here, I got some tissue or whatever. And so the teacher was just like, thank you, and you know, put it up to my nose. And then when we got into the nurse's office, like I was just so scared. I had to calm down, thankfully, just because I knew it wasn't such a big deal, but like my nose was just throbbing. In the nurse's office, like the teacher, she just took more Kleenex, put it up to my nose, and once it stopped like bleeding, she told me to go to the bathroom, and she just started kind of washing my nose off, and she pulled this little leaf out of my nose. I'm not sure how there was a little leaf in my nose, but she just pulled a bloody old leaf out of my nose. I'm not like British or anything, but it was literally covered in blood. And like I'm not sure if like when I hit the ground, like a leaf just bounced up or like just got in my nose. I don't know how it happened, but there was a little leaf in my nose. And so like I just kind of like, I was just kind of terrified. Like I don't really remember the leaf part too well, but like I just remember seeing it. I was like, what the heck? There was a leaf in my nose. And the teacher was just like, all right, you're good to go back to class. With my like head was throbbing then, and like my nose was throbbing. So I just remember I walked into my first grade classroom, and they were in the middle of doing addition. Yes, it was first grade, so we were doing 2 plus 2, all right? And I was sitting down doing my little 2 plus 2, 4 plus 2, I don't know, 8 plus 2, and we were just doing that, and I just remember the teacher just, like, told me, she just kind of walked over to me, because she was walking around the whole classroom just to help people, and she was like, hey, you know your nose is kind of bleeding still? And I'm like, what? Okay, so I just kind of grabbed some Kleenex out of my pocket, and I just put it up to my nose, and then, like, it just started bleeding through it, and it started dripping onto my paper, and I was like, oh, disgusting. So I wiped that off, and then this little girl next to me was just like, your nose is starting to bleed really bad. And so I like told the teacher, she's like, all right, go down to the nurse's office. And I felt like really dizzy and stuff. I felt like I was gonna throw up. And so when I got to the nurse's office, she was just like, just kind of confused. And I remember the teacher just kind of called and said, like, I don't know, she just kind of said, this kid needs to go home, because like my nose was just bleeding. And she just randomly just said that. She didn't even like give an explanation why. She was just like, he needs to go home. And I don't know why she did that. I think it was just because she knew it was kind of bad. And so yeah, the nurse just packed me up, and right before I left, I heard her like get a call, and there was this kid that had thrown up, and he was about to come into the classroom or into the nurse's office, and I was like, no, my mom is not here. Yeah, and so she like kind of took me out so I could sit in the hall, because I didn't want to be in the same place as a kid who had just thrown up and probably was going to still be throwing up. And so my mom came and picked me up, and we went to Starbucks so I could just get a little bit of oatmeal or whatever. And I didn't feel hungry, but my mom made me because it was about lunchtime. And so when I got home, I was like just kind of eating my oatmeal a little bit, and then I just kind of went bleh. Like I didn't throw up, but I could feel it come up in my throat, and it just felt really weird because like it was like that dry gag or whatever. And I knew at that point, like, it was actually kind of bad what would happen. And my mom just ran into the kitchen, grabbed me a bowl, and was like, all right, you're sitting up, stop eating the oatmeal. And like an hour later, I was just watching my Veggie Tales. Don't judge me, I watched Veggie Tales in first grade. And like, I was just watching my Veggie Tales. My dad came home. I don't really know why. I think it was because he heard what happened and wanted to check on me or something. But yeah, he just came home and he was like, how you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good. And I was just eating my oatmeal at that point, and I was perfectly fine. Literally, I went to school the next day, perfectly fine. It like literally, it felt like I had broken my nose. It was so serious. Like, it was bleeding everywhere. And a few days later, I actually got that worksheet back, the 2+2, and all my numbers were backwards. So my guess is that sums up to why my teacher was just like, he needs to go home, because she probably looked at it and saw that it was all backwards, and like I had blood stains on the paper, and like just all the numbers were backwards. And so that probably makes sense to why she sent me home, because I felt really dizzy and nauseous, and you know, I almost threw up when I got home. But it just amazes me that the next day I was perfectly fine. It was like nothing had happened, and I went to school perfectly fine. It's just crazy, the amount that like I went through that day, and I probably almost did break my nose. I probably could have been worse, like especially because the kid practically fell on my face. Like, he fell down and he just smacked his face on mine. And like, the weird thing is, I don't even remember hitting my nose. Like, I don't remember feeling that like pressure on my nose or whatever. I just remember him hitting my forehead. Oh my gosh, I remember, like, I have literally said and like so much in this video. I was like watching back the clips and stuff that I recorded for the cutcom, and I literally I said that so much. I hate it whenever I do that, because I get like these times where if I record out of like in the morning, I sound really groggy and I just don't really talk that excitedly and stuff. If I record in the afternoon, I'm just crazy and I'm extremely weird. And then I don't know, it's right now 5:37, and whenever I record at this time, I just cannot talk. Like, I say words so much in like sentences, and it's crazy. I'm saying it right now, like, oh my gosh, I just did it again. I'm so bad.